If you don't care for the process of modifying Monster 4x4 and just wish to play the game with the unused trucks, there are downloads in the description containing patches for both the PlayStation 2 and Nintendo GameCube versions of the game. These patches can be applied with Delta Patcher to any North American .iso copies of the game. The PlayStation 2 version features all of the cut trucks. The GameCube version is missing Spider-Man and Wolverine. The cut trucks and which they replace are as follows. Bounty Hunter replaces American Guardian. Scarlet Bandit replaces Airborne Ranger. Thrasher replaces Sudden Impact. The Incredible Hulk replaces Medusa. Spider-Man replaces Mountaineer. And Wolverine replaces Iron Warrior. These patches also contain some modifications to the text in the game, correcting some of the strange terms used, such as crash cars to crush cars, and lateral equilibrium to bicycle. These patches will work on real hardware, tested via a PlayStation 2 with a hard drive, and a Model 1 Wii via Nintendo. If that's all you want, and don't care for any customization of your own towards the game, there you go. If you're stingy about which trucks should be and which shouldn't be swapped, please watch and enjoy the rest of this video. If you've seen my previous video, you know that Monster 4x4 Masters of Metal initially had a larger roster of trucks than what's available in the final game. Before the game's release, several trucks were removed from the game. These trucks were Bounty Hunter, Scarlet Bandit, Thrasher, the Incredible Hulk, Spider-Man, and Wolverine. While inaccessible in the final game through normal means, it has been discovered that using HXD, a hexadecimal editor, you can modify the roster of trucks in the game, changing which appear and which do not in-game. This video will show you how to do it yourself, among other edits you may or may not wish to do. A shout out goes to Old Boy Jenkins on the Monster Trucks wiki, as they seem to be the very first to have discovered this process, and even shared in the steps to achieve this. I'll start here with the PlayStation 2 version. While the modification process for both versions are very similar, they do have minor differences, so I'll split them into two chapters. You can skip ahead to the GameCube version if that's what you'd prefer. Here I have a vanilla copy of the PlayStation 2 version of Monster 4x4 Masters of Metal in the .iso format. To start, assuming now you have HXD downloaded and installed, just drag the .iso into HXD to open it. All of the trucks in the game are pretty consistently labeled and named within a 4-character limit within the files and code here. For example, Gravedigger is usually listed here in the code under Grav, G-R-A-V. El Toro Loco is named just Toro, T-O-R-O. Thrasher is Thra, T-H-R-A. And etc., etc. We are looking for a very specific section of the code here, one that has a listing for all of the trucks in the game. You can find this section here. Use the numbers on screen for reference. It's between these flag footer mismatch and CONT collider messages. I suggest you use the search function with Control and F over and over and over again with one of the 4-letter truck names used here to find this section more easily. This section essentially controls what trucks appear in the game. You'll notice it lists every truck seen in the game. In fact, it does it in the exact same order as they appear in the truck select. Sort of. The first 6 trucks listed are strangely duplicate names. Ignore these, they do nothing. I'll talk about them later. After the first 6, or if you want, work your way up from the bottom, any of these names can be changed or swapped for the unused trucks. Here's a visual reference or guide to help. These are what the listed names correspond to, and here are the unused trucks and their file names. All you have to do is click at the beginning of one of the listed trucks and type in the 4-letter name corresponding to the truck you wish to swap it for. I recommend using trucks unlocked from the start of the game, especially if you don't have a completed save file with all of the trucks unlocked. But if you want to, you can swap the unlockable trucks just the same. After you've swapped these names around and chose which trucks you want to be in the roster, save the changes to your .iso file. Then I'd recommend testing the game in an emulator. For the PS2 version here, I'll use PCSX2. You won't know if it worked until you select your truck and load a track. The preview in the select screen won't update. The trucks you've swapped will only appear in-game during an event. For the GameCube version, it's much the same. Here I have a vanilla copy of the Nintendo GameCube version in the .iso format. Again, we just drag this file into the HXD program. The listing of the trucks is in a slightly different location and format to that of the PlayStation 2 version. But again, it can be used by just searching one of the truck names used in-game with their 4-letter variation. For the GameCube version, the section we are looking for is at these numbers here on screen, right underneath this M-car text. Skip the first 6 slots, or again, work your way up from the bottom, since the first 6 slots are unused. Again, to explicitly state and remind you, Wolverine and Spider-Man are unusable in the GameCube version. You will only be able to access Bounty Hunter, Scarlet Bandit, Thrasher, and Hulk in the GameCube version. We can swap the 4-letter names in the same way as the PS2 version. Again, I recommend using trucks unlocked from the start to swap, but the unlockable trucks can be used just the same. Save the changes to your file, and open the .iso in an emulator. I recommend using Dolphin. Go to Single Race or Practice, select a truck you've swapped, select an arena, and make sure it works. You can stop here with both versions if you want. This gives you access to the 4 to 6 unused trucks in any way you want, whatever your preferences on what trucks get swapped in and out. But if you want, you can make some other minor modifications while poking around in HXD. A lot of the text displayed in the game is actually stored as just plain text within HXD, meaning you can change a lot of the text in-game easily. For example, the many times the game displays crash cars, instead you could correct it into saying crush cars, by literally just swapping the A in crash in the instances of it you can find within HXD. Again, I recommend using the search function over and over, or the infamous lateral equilibrium, can be easily retyped into the more conventional term of bicycle, even though lateral equilibrium is a lot funnier. From small text adjustments like that, you can also improve the presentation of the unused trucks in the exact same way. Almost all of the in-game text for the trucks, such as the brackets and lap markers seen in the stadiums, is also just stored as plain text, and can be modified. Just note that with most trucks, you actually can't type in their full name in the lap marker area, as it's usually just too small of a space. A lot of trucks in the actual final game use abbreviations for this as well, so I recommend abbreviating them yourself. Usually with any of this text modification, you don't want to stray too far from whatever the scale of the original text was. Making it shorter is fine, but making it longer usually breaks the game, at least via this method. If the text you're changing is to a shorter string, be sure the dots after the text are zeros in the code to the left. Actual periods appear as 2E in this code, and will appear as periods in the game. Properly space the text with zeros. Really, a lot of the text in-game can be changed. You can have some real fun with this. When it comes to swapping trucks, you aren't limited to just adding the unused trucks, or even changing the order of trucks in-game. You're also able to duplicate trucks by just adding their names again over other trucks in the lineup, leading to results like this, or this. Quite similar to that one pre-release screenshot. One more creative setup I might recommend is that of making all consistent off-road AI-picked trucks the unused trucks. This is something partially done with the version I provide down in the description, as it replaces American Guardian with Bounty Hunter and Mountaineer with Spider-Man. But if you also replaced Bulldozer, Blue Thunder, King Crunch, and maybe Gunslinger, you could consistently see the unused trucks in off-road events. Personally, I felt like these trucks were too iconic to swap for the public patch here, but feel free to make such an edit for your own personal version. Now that's about all I've been able to discover, namely thanks to the work shared by Oldboy Jenkins. But I do have the sense that there's more to be found by poking around at the game like this. For example, those 6 seemingly blank spots in the lineup earlier on. I really do have the sneaking suspicion that this is a hasty leftover of the 6 unused trucks we have access to. It feels like a big coincidence having these 6 repeated trucks in the game's code, and them seemingly being entirely useless. I get the feeling that there's some kind of switch here in the game's code, that like, re-enables these unused slots, and thusly they could be used to add Bounty Hunter and the like without removing other trucks. But I don't have any grounds for that. With the little bit of poking around I've done, I haven't found any kind of switch or flag to do that. Maybe it is in there and it can be found, but I don't think I'll be the one to find it. Also, given how simple it is to swap the trucks, it makes me wonder if the hexadecimal editing could instead be swapped for GameShark and Action Replay codes, making it even easier to access the trucks, both in emulators and on real hardware. This is something I tried, but I don't know how GameShark or Action Replay codes work, and I wasn't willing to put in the time to learn either. If anyone is skilled with either, I welcome you to try. Well, that's about all I've learned. This video is both a tutorial and a way to provide the ability to use the scrapped trucks from Monster 4x4, but also an open invitation to anyone more savvy with hex editing or modding in general to tinker further with the game. If these modifications can be achieved so easily, who knows what else can be done? Maybe the unused voice lines and icons can be re-enabled. Maybe we can even see a complete roster usable without the need to remove trucks. If you think any of that is possible, I encourage you to grab a copy of the game and give it a try. I still hold out hope that the review copy I talked about in my last video can be found as well, but for now, this is a great solution. It's so amazing to me to finally be able to play as these trucks. I hope you've enjoyed this video, and I hope you enjoy these mods. Feel free to leave a comment down below telling me what your personal roster of choice is using these mods, even if it's saying wacky like Duplicate Infernos here. My next video will be a larger one in scope like the last video, so if you're interested in seeing that, maybe subscribe if you want. A like on this video would be cool too. See you around.